Hello, everybody. My name is Elijah. I am with 85 Studios, and I have somebody here with an interview about the paranormal and some of the experiences that they had living in a haunted house. And I just I believe this person. I don't know them personally, but the stories that they tell. Listen to the stories that they tell, and you will see and they talk about this firsthand. So, caller, what do you want us to call you? What should we call you? Your name?
You can call me Linn.
Okay, Linn. My name is Elijah. I'm with 85 Studios, and we're making a video interview here. And I want you to go ahead and go into your story here. Tell us a little bit about what happened to you.
Okay, well, I lived in the area, in Kansas area, for, about 30 years. And I was about 31 when my husband and I, we decided to start looking around for a house to buy. We'd been living in rentals. We'd had our children. We had 4 children together. We had done a lot of house shopping, looking for a house. We'd spent several years looking, and finally, when I hit 31, we came across a house that fit what we were looking for. It was a beautiful ranch-style home, 1 story, and it was what they call a fixer-upper, and in that it had pretty much most of the things that you normally look for. The air conditioner and the heater were fairly new. We didn't want to have to dump a bunch of money into it to fix it up. And we had when we first looked at the house, I got a really odd feeling when we walked into this house. I really didn't. The more that we looked at the house, the further in we walked in, looking at the rooms and stuff like that, the less I liked the house.
So So let me interrupt you there.
Okay.
So you got a ominous feeling immediately when you walked in the house, and did you at that point in time, did you suspect that it was haunted, or did you just feel like something was off?
At the time, I felt like something was off on the house.
Did you
did not
feel like somebody was watching you or something like that? There's a lot of people describe this feeling of like eyes upon them.
What it felt like to me was, it felt like there was when I went into one of the bedrooms, I got this, it was a frightening feeling, actually. I remember there was a bedroom, and I had gone in there with my husband and the real estate lady, and she was showing me, oh, look, here's the closets, look how big these closets are. And they were enormous, big walk-in closets, just, like the old-fashioned houses used to have, these great big giant walk-in closets, and
Yeah.
I loved that. And I was checking out the closet, and the real estate lady and my husband had walked out back into the living room, And I got the most horrible fear feeling while I was looking at this closet. And once that hit me, it did not go away. I mean, from that point on, every
Almost
part
like
of that house.
almost like something had zeroed in on you and was now following you throughout the house, or was it which closet were you looking in? If you don't mind if I ask.
Well, it was when you walked into the living room. When you walked into the house, you walked into the living room, and there was a bedroom on the left-hand side.
Okay.
There was a room and that was the first room that she showed us. It was the very first room that she showed us. And when I first walked in there, I got an odd sensation, but I couldn't really pin it down. And I wasn't really paying any attention to it, because in reality, I was looking at this house and I was thinking, okay, this house, it's not huge, but it's not really small either. It's just about perfect. The design of it and everything was just, I loved the way the house had been designed, and in reality, I loved the fact that I grew up in the 70s, and ranch style houses were the big thing back then, and I was finally going to get to look at a ranch style house, and there were a lot of things in the house that I really liked. Whoever had owned the house previously, they had put a lot of work in. There was, handmade, just woodwork throughout the whole house, and it was all hand done, and it was this beautiful mahogany red tones, and I just loved it at that point. As soon as I walked in and saw that, I was like, oh my God, this is gorgeous. Because it was unique. It wasn't like any other house. It didn't have all that store-bought stuff that you see normally. This was all
modern
done.
Day cheap junk that you see in the new houses, that panel board and stuff like that. I get you.
Right. And mahogany is the color of mahogany is one of my favorite colors. So, yeah, I was taken into by the house just because of that. But then when I walked into that closet I started to walk into that first bedroom, that's when I started feeling like something just felt off. But I ignored it. I was like, oh, the house has probably been abandoned for a while, and maybe it's just the apprehension of, am we going to be able to get this house? We had already put in a bid for one house and lost the bid. Somebody outbid us, we're going to go and end up dealing with this again. But then when I walked in the closet, and I got this super, super dark feeling, and it didn't leave me. At that point, I don't even remember what the seller was saying to us. I don't remember my husband even, I don't even remember anything that was said at that point in time for the rest of the tour of the house. Because all I could concentrate on was this horrible, fearful, dark feeling. And it was fearful. It was like, oh God, I need to get out of here. In fact, I can even remember, at one point in time, I do remember telling my husband, I'm not feeling very well. We need to leave. We need to go.
So it made you physically ill?
Yeah, it did.
I've had experiences like that myself, where you get this feeling that's so strong, like something wants you out, and I'm empathic myself. I sense the feelings and the emotional output that these spirits put off, that it's just overpowering to the point that it's like I've even been frozen in fear from just the sheer amount of it's an energy that they put off. I'm sure you know what I mean there. Yeah.
It's an undescribably, I've experienced, fear, almost had a car wreck kind of fear. I've experienced,
there's nothing quite like it.
Yeah, there's really,
I'm very familiar with that one.
Actually, I started feeling sick. And, so we left the house, and my husband kept talking about the house, how, he was already, asking me, what I thought of the house, and I told him, I said, well, I'm not really thrilled with this house. I don't really like it. And he was like, well, what didn't you like about it? And I couldn't really tell him.
One of those skeptic types?
Why? Well, I don't really know, because we talked about it a little bit, about that kind of stuff. But, he'd had some paranormal experiences when he was a kid growing up in his own house, so it wasn't like he wasn't open to it, but it was just one of those things with, I really just didn't know how to talk to him about why I felt the way I did about the house. And he was so determined to get this house for several reasons. Number one, it was within our price range. Number two, it was just a few blocks from where he worked at the time. Number three, it was not in the town itself. It was more on the outskirts, and there was a lot of land that came with it, and the price was just darn good. It was within our, there was, plus the house had, along with this land, it had the potential in his eyes to build onto it, to make it a bigger house, so that our kids could have a room of their own each, instead of, this house at the time had 3 bedrooms. We were actually looking for a 5-bedroom home, so there was a potential for that. He was also looking at, putting a basement. This house did not have a basement, so he was looking at putting a partial basement under it. So, and the potential of this house, it fits all of those things as far as the possibilities go.
Okay.
And we're not talking about, something that he was going to do right away, but it was going to be one of those over time kind of things, and he was talking about that kind of stuff.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So one of those, yeah, I see what you mean.
So I was having a hard time. Well, for one thing, I couldn't figure out why I was feeling like I was feeling. And when when you can't figure out what's going on with you, it's really hard to tell somebody else what's going on with you.
Yep.
And I just really couldn't. I didn't say anything. I pretty much the whole way home, I pretty much just agreed with what he was saying and kept quiet.
Yeah.
The feeling did eventually leave me, but then every time he would talk about it, I would remember that fear.
So it kind of followed you most of the way home to your house before you bought obviously the haunted house. Bought it. It followed you to the other house, or partially to the other house.
No, what it
was it
did
more of a memory?
It at that time it was more of a memory. As soon as we left the house, I started feeling better.
Okay.
But I was confused as to why I had felt that. I mean, the sickness feeling started to go away. Everything started going back to normal. And here I was, he's trying to talk to me about this house, and I'm over here trying to figure out what just happened to me.
Okay.
I'm still confused as to why did I have that sudden fear? Why was it so bad? Why did I suddenly get sick? What in the world is going on? That is there something about this house that am I actually getting sick with something, or is there something about the house or is it stress, or is it something about I wasn't thinking paranormal. I wasn't thinking anything on those levels. I was thinking, is there maybe something in the house? Is there, the carpet? I mean, fumes, something, anything. Nothing in my mind that I could think of that would have caused me to feel that sick, because I literally felt like I was just going to throw up. I had gotten that sick. I mean, literally. I mean, I was embarrassing because, who likes to be sick in the middle of being shown their house, somebody's house.
Good.
And
yeah, that's not good.
But like I said, eventually that feeling went away completely. It didn't leave me entirely for a little while. It did take a while. We lived out of town at the time, and it took about 10 or 15 minutes for me to feel totally normal again. The next day, my husband and I, we talked about the various different houses that we had seen throughout the day, and he kept going back to this house and wanting to talk about this house. And I kept avoiding it. I kept trying to bring up a different house.
You knew something was wrong with that house.
Yeah. It was very obvious to me that something wasn't right with that house. And honestly, I'd never experienced that kind of situation in a house. I'd never experienced anything like that. I didn't even know, I know now that it was paranormal, but back then I had no clue. So anyway, my husband was like, I really like this house. I really want this house. Let's put a bid on it and see what happens. And at the time, we were living in a very small house. We had our fourth child, We had outgrown this house, and I was ready to move to someplace. I mean, we were basically almost stumbling over each other, on a daily basis because of the size of the house we were currently living in. And so I was like, okay, fine. All right. Go ahead and put the bed in. And I was thinking, as nice as the house is, it's on a nice big lot. Chances are we probably won't get it. It's close to the schools. It's a ways from town, but it's not so far away that it's ridiculous. It's not like way out in the country. It's just on the outskirts. And I was thinking we probably won't get it.
Yeah.
Price is low, that kind of thing. Well, we did. We got it.
It seemed like it would have been a perfect house if it weren't for the fact that there's the paranormal going on in it, right?
It was. It really was. We went through, all of the paperwork and all of that sort of stuff. Got the house. Had possession of the house within 30 days. And I started packing stuff, and the whole time that I was packing stuff, I was thinking about that feeling that I had. And I was trying to ignore the fact that, that I had that feeling. I was trying to pretend to be happy. And it really wasn't. There was just this dread feeling that just, every time I thought about the place, I would think about how I felt when we first looked at the house. And I was going, oh God, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I said some prayers. I was like, God, please don't let this be a mistake. I'm a very spiritual person. I believe in God very strongly. And after having lived in that house for 20 years, I honestly, truly believe that had I not had my faith in God, I don't think that I would be here today to talk about it.
Are you talking very serious activity? Very serious?
Yes. Well, the first day that we moved there, it was actually the second time I'd actually walked in this house. And when I opened up the door, walked into the house, I didn't feel anything. I did not feel anything like what I felt when we first looked at this house. I walked into that very same room, opened up that closet door, opened up that closet, looked at the closet, started making plans as to whose room that was going to be, as far as whether it was going to be one of my children's. It was not the master bedroom, and that meant that it was going to be one of my children's rooms.
Can I ask you a question about it? Okay.
Yes.
When you first came to the house with the realtor, was it early morning? Was it evening? Was it late at night? Or was it, what about... about what time?
It would have been mid-afternoon. About probably, it would have been, I don't remember any school children walking by or anything like that. I'm going to say that it was probably about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It was before school was to get out. What my husband and I would do was we would put the kids in school, and then while they were in school, we would look at houses. I mean, it was really hard to look at houses when you've got 4 kids running around. So we'd put the kids in school. On his days off, we would go and contact the realtor and say, you know, we'd like to look at these houses. And she would set them up during the time period when all the kids were in school so that we could do that. Now, I still had a baby with me, but one child was a lot easier to look at a house than having 4 running around.
And when you were first moving in this first day, about what time of day was it? I'm just trying to kind of get an idea of if the activity was higher in the evening or afternoon, or if you were noticing more activity in the morning or at night, you know, that kind of thing.
Well, when we packed up and started moving stuff, it was about mid-morning when we arrived. I'd say probably around 10 o'clock.
Okay. So did you notice activity pick up or that feeling increase as it progressed, as the day progressed? No? Okay.
Not the first, not that entire day. By the end of the day, we had moved in everything except we had this really long, big couch. And we were exhausted. We had done all of the moving ourselves.
I hate moving.
And oh yeah. Well, I was taking that feeling of, okay, so we've lived in rentals for all these years. We finally got our own house. Hopefully this will be the last time we move, or a really, really long time before we have to move again. So I was taking that pleasure of, this is our house. This is our home. And I was actually starting to feel pretty excited about it. And I remember, it was about 10 o'clock at night. I had laid all of the kids down for bed around 9 o'clock. The baby was asleep. And my husband and I, we unloaded this huge couch. It was a hide-a-bed couch. And so it was really heavy. I don't know if anybody's ever had to move one of those, but this was about a 6-foot-long hide-a-bed couch.
Those things are bulky, very heavy. Yeah.
Bulky and heavy. And we had already moved in a double-door refrigerator, freezer. We had washers and dryers. We'd moved in. All of the beds, all of the boxes of stuff. I mean, we had gone to, our house that we had before was so small that we couldn't even put all of our stuff in, so we had it in storage.
Wow.
We had all of that stuff. We had moved into the house from storage, and
it's good to stretch out a little bit. That's great.
Yeah. And, so at 10 o'clock, my husband and I were sitting in the garage on this couch that we had moved out of the van, the moving van. And we had the garage doors open. It was a double two-car garage. And I had made us some iced tea, and we were sitting out there with the garage door open, staring out on sitting on the couch, staring out at the stars, going, this is our home.
It's a good feeling.
And we took this, just this really long breath of, this is our home. and we were just staring out at the sky, at the stars. It was just an amazing moment. And we were sitting there just enjoying that, and all of a sudden that fear feeling came back. I mean, it just hit all of a sudden.
Oh.
And it really, really surprised me. And it felt like someone was staring at us from inside the garage.
Huh.
Now we had, it was late summer when we moved into the house, and so we had the lights off in the garage because we didn't want bugs flying in.
Yeah.
Pestering us while we were sitting out there. Moths and gnats and all kinds of, So, but there was still enough light from the street lights to shine in that, you could see a little bit. It was just comfortably dark.
Yeah.
And anyway, I sat up. I was, my husband and I, we were kind of arm in arm, doing a little smooching there. And I sat up on the couch and I looked over the corner of the garage. And in this corner was the opening. It was an attached garage. So it was open to the garage door opened up into what was an indoor patio, is what it was. And I did, that feeling came up, and it felt like somebody was staring at me. And it was a very evil, menacing feeling. And in fact, when I sat up, my husband jumped and looked over the same area where I was at.
Did he
neither one of
notice
us
it
heard
also?
anything. Yes, he did.
Both of you, did you ever
He
talk
did.
to him about whether or not he felt the same feeling, or?
Yes, I did. I talked to him right then and there.
Oh,
I
okay.
talked to him right then and there because the look on his face was I mean, by that time my husband and I had been married for 12 years. We knew each other fairly well. And the reaction on his face, and his reaction was, what was that? What is that?
Not
And
good.
we were both looking in the corner of this garage over by where the entryway into the patio was. It was an indoor patio. And I talked to him then. I said, do you feel like somebody's staring at you? And he said, yeah. And I said, turn the garage lights on. So, we went over there and he turned the garage lights on, and there was nothing there. And he's like, you got kind of creepy feeling? And I said, yeah, I said, when we first looked at this house, I had that creepy feeling. I said, that's why I got sick and wanted to leave. And he just looked at me like, well, why didn't you tell me? And I said, and I mean, the look on his face was like, you didn't say anything to me? And eventually that's what he said to me is, you didn't tell me anything about that. And I said, well, how am I supposed to tell you that I think there's something wrong with this house? I said, I told you so many different ways that I didn't like this house. I figured that would be enough. And there was an immediate hostility between us. It was like, there was like, I mean, it should have been a discussion, yeah, that was weird, kind of, but then blown off. I mean, but there was an immediate hostility between the two of us. It was very hostile.
Do you think that...
Why didn't you tell me about this?
Do you think that had there been a lot of hostility between you guys beforehand? I mean, do you think that entity may have triggered something in either you or him that might have, because spirits have been known to trigger hostility and then feed off of that negative energy as a source for their ability to increase their strength. I've seen this before. Just wondering, do you think that it's possible that entity might have caused something negative between you two?
Well, my husband and I, we had we had our differences throughout our marriage, and there were times when it was a tough marriage. It was a tough marriage at times. But we had several years before gone to marriage counseling. Marriage counseling worked pretty well for us. And we had not had any issues, not like that. Not where there was that much aggression and hostility toward each other. And there was serious hostility. I mean, I felt a little bit scared for myself because my husband, I mean, I was like 100-pound woman weighing, 110 max, and I'm 5'6", and my husband is 6'1" and 200 pounds, And I felt some serious aggression from him, and I felt a little worried. I did. I felt scared for him, because I hadn't seen him come at me like that. Not like that. Yes, we had our arguments. I mean, who doesn't? But we did not have we didn't have those kind of arguments. Not like that.
So you do think that thing had something to add to it?
Well,
at least?
I wonder.
Okay.
I finally stepped out of the garage, stepped into the driveway, stepped away from him. I mean, I did. I stepped away from him. And he stepped out into the garage, or not out to the garage, he stepped out into the driveway. And I just stood out there. I was trying to talk to him, say, hey, I don't know what that was. I don't know what that feeling was. I didn't know what it was when we first looked at the house. I said, I'm kind of glad you felt that too, because now I can talk to you about how I was feeling when we first looked at this house. And, his demeanor changed. His attitude, as soon as we walked out of the garage and was standing kind of in the middle of the driveway, he calmed down. His demeanor changed. Wow. And, I mean, it was quick. I mean, it was that quick. It just like, it was the difference between night and day.
It almost sounds like it was influencing him in some way. Like maybe he was more sensitive than he thought he was at the time, and maybe this creature, this entity, somehow, it's almost like it had figured out a way to, I'm not gonna say like possess, but it's almost like alter his mood or personality for a moment.
Yeah, it was really, really weird. And I apologized to him. I said, I'm sorry I didn't tell you about it before, and I guess I just I didn't know what it was, and he was like, it's okay, it's all right. He said, I'm sorry I got upset with you, and I said, maybe it's just that we're really tired and it's just a new house. And I mean, we've done all of this work, and and he was like, you're probably right. I think I'm going to go ahead and just close up the door. We'll leave the couch till tomorrow. Let's go to bed. I'm tired.
Mm-hmm.
And we did. And that was the very, very first odd situation that happened with this house. And even to this day, I still kind of wonder, to some extent, if it wasn't just that we were overly tired. But then, as time went, as when I think about all the other things that happened in that house, having lived there for 20 years, I don't know. I mean, there's a part of me that wants to think that, yeah, he was overly tired. But there's another part of me that wonders if something wasn't affecting him in some way.
Yeah.
But so day 2 comes along. We get up. Everything seems fine. Everything seems normal. Move the couch in. And I start unpacking stuff. The kids are out of school. They aren't going to start school for another couple weeks, so I'm immediately, the first thing I do is I start unpacking their stuff, getting it ready for school. And then my husband, he was checking out the backyard, and I don't know, checking out the garage. There was some, the garage had been set up for a shop, so it had some shop benches and different things like that, and he was pretty excited about that. He was finally going to have a place to put his tools and his fishing gear, and
Hey, a fisherman, hey, I like that. A mechanic and a fisherman,
Oh, yeah.
That's what I am. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, he was overly excited, Believe it or not, he was even excited, hey, we're going to be able to get our own lawnmower and mow our own lawns,
It's so simple yet. It's so
do
simple
our
yet.
own yards, plant flowers, and we were thrilled.
Yep. Lots of potential there. The possibilities are endless. Okay, guys, we are going to take a break here, and we are going to come back to Linn in an undisclosed location And we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more about this haunted house that she lived in for 20 years. And we've just lost the line. But I will call her back and go ahead and we're going to make a new episode here. If you like, I'm going to go ahead and set up a number that you can call. But if you want your story told on 85 Studios here in this fashion, in this style, interview style, if it's a paranormal or UFO or abduction story or what have you, then go ahead and hit us up on Facebook, and it is facebook.com/85studios1, and click send a message, and we'll get back with you and we'll give you a number to call and we'll set up a time for an interview. Or you can also hit us up on Twitter at 85 Studios. At 85 Studios YouTube rather, and we can send you a link, and you can send in. We can send you a number that you can call and set up a time for an audio interview, just like this over the telephone. All right. So we're gonna cut this, and we'll be back in another episode, and we'll hear more from Linn in Kansas.